What's up, gardeners? Today we're gonna nerd out over mango trees. I love mangoes. They are my favorite fruit. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Come on, let's go. All right, guys, today we are talking about mango trees. Mangoes are by far my favorite fruit. I could eat mangoes all day long. I've been hesitant to do a video about mangoes. Why? Because mango trees are very hard to grow here in the Phoenix area for a number of reasons. And we're gonna talk about all those reasons. I am not the mango expert, but I have made a lot of mistakes in growing mango trees. So I can tell you what not to do, and hopefully you can figure out what to do, and you can have awesome mangoes homegrown in your own yard. So let's talk about it. The first thing that is important to point out, a lot of people think that, oh, it's Phoenix, you can't grow mangoes in the desert, it's too hot. Actually, mangoes don't mind our heat and our sun. It's the cold that they don't like. So my first tip for you is find a place in your yard where mango trees will not be as affected by the cold in the winter time. This mango right here, which is a coconut cream mango, is planted right up against my house. So you'll see a lot of people in Arizona who cover their mango trees in the winter. They'll build structures over them and they'll put shade cloth or plastic over them. With this specific mango tree, because it's so close to the house, the first year I did that, the next 3 winters, I have not covered this thing at all. And because of its proximity to the home and because of the canopy over above it, it has done just fine. It gets some cold damage, but for the most part, it's done okay. If you aren't able to find a place like this, then what you need to do is, like I said, make a structure, PVC pipe, put frost cloth or plastic over it, and then put some type of heat lamp in it. Any night where it's gonna be under 35 degrees is when you wanna do that. That will keep it safe, it will minimize the cold damage, and it will help get your mango tree through the winter. Because again, it's the winter that is the hard time of year, it's not the summer. One important thing to point out when it comes to frost damage is you'll come out in the morning after it's been really cold and you'll look at your mangoes, the leaves, and you'll say, oh, it looks really good, I didn't get any damage. But frost damage, cold damage can take up to a week before you notice it or before you see it. And what happens is the leaves will turn brown, almost like they've been burnt. One important thing, when you see that and you're in the middle of the winter, wait until it's springtime, until things heat back up, and until the mango tree starts to grow again, and then cut off those leaves. Don't cut them off right away. The leaves, even though they're burnt, they help protect the tree from future cold nights that may occur during the winter. Something that is very important to point out when growing mangoes, and it's probably the hardest part of growing mangoes in Arizona, is mango trees do not like our soil. The pH of our soil is very high. Mangoes do not like that. They want a lower pH than our soil offers here in Arizona. So here's the thing, a lot of people will go and they'll buy a mango tree, they'll bring it home, they'll plant it. The first year it produces mangoes and they say, look at me, I'm growing mangoes in Arizona, how cool is this? But then the second year, the third year, their mango tree starts to look like crap. The leaves look horrible, it's not growing. What happened? The mango tree started to send its roots into our native soil and it doesn't like the native soil. And so suddenly you realize, oh, maybe I'm not that good at growing mangoes. So don't be impressed with anyone that has a mango tree that's been in the ground 2 years and has mangoes. That's the easy part. If you see someone that has a mango tree that's 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, then, my boy's trying to hit me with the stick, then that's impressive. So what we need to do is we need to add sulfur to the soil. We're trying to lower the pH. If you have any other remedies or any other ways to do that, great. But the point is we need to lower the pH to make the mango tree happy. You can add a bunch of organic material, that helps. Like I said, you can add sulfur. There's many things you can do, but until you do that, until you lower the pH, you're not gonna have healthy looking, good mango trees. So that's one tip. The second tip for the first 3 years, do not let your mango tree fruit. I know that's hard. You bought a mango tree because you love mangoes, You want to have mangoes in your own backyard, but do not let it fruit. When it sends out the flowers and it tries to fruit, cut them off. It doesn't matter what size of tree you have. If you buy a small one at the nursery or if you buy a huge one at the nursery, do not let it fruit for the first 3 years. Just do it. Have self-control, have willpower. Do not allow it to fruit. Why? Because we don't want the tree focusing on growing fruit. We want it focusing on growing its roots and acclimating to the soil of Arizona or wherever you're at. If it's putting all its energy into growing the fruit, it's not going to be putting its energy into acclimating to the soil. So again, this is my coconut cream mango, and this is the first year, it's 4 years old. This is the first year I've allowed it to fruit. And you can see here, nice coconut cream mango. It is pretty close to being ready and pretty close to being ripe. But I haven't allowed it to fruit until this point when it's 4 years old. Another tip that is very important when growing mangoes, especially with the coconut cream variety, they will grow and they'll kind of become lanky and the branches aren't strong. And so what'll happen, if you haven't trimmed it correctly, when these mangoes come and these mangoes are heavy, it's gonna pull the mango tree down. So what you wanna do, and I haven't done it here yet because I wanted to show you in the video, see how this branch is extremely long, comes all the way out here. You don't want this because when a mango comes right here, it's gonna completely pull the branch down to the ground. So what you can do is you can come right here and just cut it off right like that. And then what'll happen once you cut it off, then it will send out other branches all around here and it will strengthen this branch so that when fruiting time comes, it will be able to hold up and support the mangoes. So I know it's hard again because you don't want to cut off all this awesome growth that has occurred on your mango tree, but you need to cut the branches to keep the mango tree branches strong and able to hold on to those mangoes. So you're probably noticing a common theme. Mangoes are a long-term game, long-term play. You have to be patient when it comes to mangoes. You're going to be trimming them for the first 3 years. You're going to be letting them get acclimated to the soil for the first 3 years. You're not going to be allowing them to fruit for the first 3 years. Be patient. Let them get comfy, let them get acclimated to where they are, and then after 3 years, you can start to enjoy the fruits of your labors and have awesome mangoes. But you have to be patient when it comes to mangoes. When you're planting your mango tree, with a lot of trees, like last week we talked about the peach tree, if you want to look at that video, and I said, buy the smallest peach tree you can because it's going to grow extremely fast. That is not the case with mangoes. When it comes to mangoes, spend as much money as you can and get the biggest mango tree that you can. Mango trees do not grow very fast here in the desert, and so if you can give yourself a head start and buy a bigger mango, you're going to be much happier in the long run, and you're going to get more fruit sooner if you buy the bigger mango trees. And when you're planting your mango trees, you want to make sure, like with all your tropical fruit trees, that you're amending the soil with a good compost, but also keeping that native soil in there. You don't want to replace all the native soil and put in all compost, because the goal is to supplement with compost to give the tree a good chance to grow, but also the tree needs to get acclimated to the native soil sooner rather than later. So amend with a good mixture of compost and native soil. And also, like we've talked about, plant your tree above grade. Don't plant it too low in the ground. You want to see that root flare, like we've talked about before. We've talked about the root flare. And as always, if you're going to err on the side of planting it too high or too low, you want to plant the tree too high. Trees will die from being planted too low. They're probably not going to die from being planted too high. And then also, you want to make sure that you keep the soil well draining. You want to be able to water these a lot. They like lots of water, but you want the soil to be well draining. We don't want standing, pooling water, because that's where root rot comes in, and then that's where the tree is not happy. So make sure your soil is very well draining. Okay, so I want to show you guys all the mango trees that I currently have in my yard. And I want to show you all the advice I gave you. Some of it I haven't followed myself because I've learned from my mistakes. So I want to show you my mistakes and hopefully give you guys some inspiration. So again, this is my first one. This is my coconut cream mango tree. This is this has been a long time coming. Like I said, this tree is 4 years old and I got one mango this year. I'm extremely excited to try this one. Let's go around to the backyard and look at some of the other mangoes that I have. All right, so now we're standing in front of my Carrie mango tree. You can see here this vetiver grass is kind of taking over, which by the way, if you're not growing vetiver grass, you're missing out. But this I bought as a huge 25-gallon tree, and I made the mistake of thinking, oh, it's a huge tree. It's a 25-gallon, I can let it fruit right away. I did the first year and it gave me about 20 mangoes, but honestly, ever since then, it has not looked that great. You can see some dead parts up here. It's starting to put out new growth, which is good, but ever since I let it fruit 2 years ago and get all that fruit, it has not looked the greatest. So another reason, proof, do not let your mangoes fruit right away, even if it's a huge tree. So this year, as you can tell, there's no mangoes here. I haven't allowed it to fruit at all. And this is my fruit punch mango. You can see here, it's been cut down a lot. I've had problems with dieback. It will grow out and then suddenly they'll just start to die. I don't know why. So I keep cutting that back and it seems to be over that and it's putting out new growth because it's a very thick trunk, but it doesn't have a lot of growth on it. So I'm hoping by adding sulfur, constantly amending the soil, adding organic compost, chicken manure, worm casting, things to that nature, that it's done with its dieback, branch dieback, and we'll see. That happens a lot, I found. They just tend to die back on certain trees. I haven't found a rhyme or a reason, but just be aware that that does happen. All right, and now we are in front of my Alfonso mango, or at least that's what I think it is. I bought it as an unknown variety, but last year after getting mangoes on it and trying them and looking at them, I'm pretty sure it's Alfonso. You can see here, there's 5. Tastes so good. This tree is 4 years old, so I'm letting it fruit. I let it get a couple fruit last year on its 3rd year and a couple more fruit this year. One thing, when it comes to cutting the branches, when I first got this thing was probably 10 feet tall, but I cut the branches back big time. You can see here, that's where I made the initial cut. And you can see it's branched out ever since then. And I did it over here as well. And the reason I did that again was to keep the branches strong so that they could support the mangoes. And also because it makes it more of like a lollipop shape, shorter shape. That's so you can protect it in the winter if you need to. If you let it grow super tall, you're not gonna be able to protect it. The frost is gonna get it and it's gonna die. And then this guy is my gold nugget seedling. So I had an awesome gold nugget mango and I thought it tasted so good that I wanted to grow it from seed. So I did. I sprouted it, I put it in, and you can see it's growing pretty good. I did not protect this at all during the winter because I wanted the seedling to be stronger than most mangoes, and I found that it is. It looked horrible during the winter without protecting it, but it's coming back really good. And I hope that throughout the next few winters, it gets even more stronger and I don't have to protect it. All right, and this is my Kent mango. It's the first mango I ever planted. I planted it as a little baby 3-gallon, and I had no idea what I was doing. This used to be all rock. I threw it in there. I mulched it with rock. Horrible, horrible. I let it fruit from day 1 when it was a little 3-gallon seedling, and so the growth has been stunted because of that. This year I was not gonna let it fruit, but I noticed a few weeks ago this nice big Kent mango. So I'm a little upset with that, but now that it's this big, I'm just gonna let it go. But I probably won't even let this guy fruit next year. You can see it has this new growth that's coming out. I'm just gonna let it focus on new growth so that in future years, I can get more mangoes. But guys, if you're looking for a good tasting mango, Kent is what you want. It's one of my favorite tasting mangoes. And here we are. This is my favorite tasting mango. This is the sweet tart mango. Like I said, I gave you guys some advice, but some of it I haven't followed myself, but I'm going to now follow all of that advice because this is only its 1st year in the ground. It was a big tree. I thought, hey, let's see if I can get some mangoes. And you can see there's little baby mangoes here. There's some back here. There's another 2 or 3 back there. But ever since it's been growing the fruit, you can tell it doesn't look the greatest. The leaves are suffering, it's not putting on new growth, and that's because I've let it fruit instead of letting it get acclimated to the soil. Stupid mistake, but because the mangoes are coming ripe, I'm just gonna leave them on, especially because I love sweet tart mangoes, which by the way, mangoes ripen in the summertime, flower in the winter, ripen in the summer. So they're coming up ripe soon. I'll eat them, I'll enjoy them. Lesson learned. From now on, I will not let them fruit for the first 3 years, and neither should you. All right, and then also guys, mangoes can be grown in containers. I have this guy growing in the container. This is a cotton candy mango. You can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 awesome, nice looking big cotton candy mangoes that are almost ripe. So what you want to do when you plant them in containers is make sure you're constantly feeding them and keeping them away from critters like this guy who's trying to take the mangoes off. You want to make sure that you're constantly feeding with worm castings, worm tea, things to that nature. Keep them fed in pots, because when they're in the ground, they can grow out and find other nutrients in the pot. They can't. It's only what you feed them. So make sure that you're feeding them correctly and often. But mangoes can do very well in pots. And if you don't want to worry about covering in the winter, put them in a pot. Then on the nights you know it's going to get cold, pull it in under your patio, pull it inside, whatever you need to do. And it's a lot easier to keep them warm during the winter. So if you're more of a lazy gardener, plant them in pots. They'll do just fine, and you can get awesome fruit like this. All right guys, so as you can tell, I love mangoes, but mangoes are hard. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You should definitely grow your own mangoes in your backyard, because like I always say, if you have only had a store-bought mango, you have actually never tasted a real mango. There is nothing like growing and eating your own mangoes. So go out, buy a mango tree, try and follow these simple steps, give it time. It's a long play. Wait 3 years and you'll have awesome mangoes in your own backyard. Guys, thank you as always for watching the video. Please, please, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Comment below if there's any videos you want to see. Comment if you have any questions. I love to interact with everybody and help any way I can. Thank you guys. We'll see you in the next video.